Hi, everybody. Welcome to AITA Pod. I'm Danny Vega, joined by the amazing leopard-shoed Shannon D.
That's me.
Those are cool.
And Jake Davis.
Oh, no comments on me.
The
No.
one, I wasn't done talking,
Oh.
Jake. The one and only.
Okay.
The classic. The tall drink of water. I'm not that thirsty. I'm not
All right,
thirsty. That is too tall.
You went to some well-trod territory there, but I'll take it.
You'll take it?
Yeah.
Well, your hair is on fleek today, Jake. I can give
Thank
you a
you
lot
very
of
much.
compliments if that's what you need.
I appreciate it. No, I'm feeling very confident.
I
these
think
days.
that not only do I think that you're a beautiful man, I also am very defensive when people are approaching your height.
Oh,
My,
I met someone this weekend.
Yeah, my opener, Steph Darnell, great guy, in Carlsbad, New Mexico. He claimed to be 6'5" or 6'4", and I was like, I don't know. I feel like Jake's a lot bigger than you.
Well, Jake is 6'6". Well, 6'5"
Jake was
and
6'5" and 3/4. He rounds down. But it's that you're wide, bro.
It's
that
the
you're
shoulders.
wide.
The shoulders are what really
I mean,
pop
Jake
me.
is twice my width. It's crazy. He
Yeah.
could eat me in 4 or 5 bites.
I take up a lot of space.
You do.
Yeah. Wear my weight well for sure. But I still, a tall drink of water still gets me. That's still one that makes me go, look at me.
Ooh,
Oh, yeah.
that's
I
fun.
get that one.
Well,
too.
somebody posted on our Instagram that we're an attractive cast.
We cover a lot of
That
bases.
felt good. That's-
Whatever
We
you're
are
into, we got a
the
good portion of it.
best-looking podcast crew.
I'm big fan of that. You
I
know,
know.
the 5'8" squad. Rise with me, boys. Yes, Danny. Yes, we are big.
It's funny because it never bothers me. It never is like, it's never off-putting to me. But when I do meet people who are taller than me, I'm so not used to it that I have to take a second and just remember, right. Yeah, that happens. And then I'm fine with it.
Yeah, more recently I've become friends with taller women. I'm not
Oh,
usually
congrats.
friends with taller women for some reason.
Well,
maybe
they're fairly uncommon.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's it. Especially in New Jersey, like I was definitely an anomaly over there for some reason. I don't know, something in the water.
Governor of New
Short
Jersey
over there.
taking his glasses off in exasperated sweat heap. We can't explain it. We've never seen a woman taller than 5'5" in this state.
I'm done though. I'm not
Honestly.
taking in any new tall friends. That's it. That quote is filled.
Yeah,
It's
you need to
5'8"
get some
and
shorter
under.
ones so then you
Exactly.
look tall.
Yeah, exactly. Now you're thinking short and ugly. That's all I'm accepting right now.
no.
Yeah. The Duffs.
What?
Duffs. Designated ugly friend.
Oh wow! I didn't know you,
You
had
ever
a
heard
term. I
that?
was just joking.
I didn't have a
Yeah, I didn't
term.
realize you had
It
a
is a
handbook you
term.
wrote.
I wrote.
We know it's your strategy.
Yeah,
That's why I'm your friend.
I have definitely met people who I think it's obviously an abhorrent, toxic way to think about the friend group that you're accruing. But I definitely knew some people, especially in college, that were clearly like picking and choosing a friend group that allowed them to look the best.
Oh God.
You know what I
That's
mean?
terrible.
Yeah, I knew a couple.
I
I
feel
knew a
like
couple
never
of
thought of
Scottsdale
that.
folks who were
Yeah.
pulling that move.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't have any friends. You guys are my friends. But so that got sad. I was in this is how I felt though, driving all the way. Oh God, I must have driven 24 fucking 30 hours this weekend. It was
Oh,
brutal.
God, where'd you go?
Oh, where didn't I go? I went to Lordsburg, New Mexico. We all know. That's what I like when I go to these places is I'll be like, yeah, I stayed in this town in New Mexico. And then I'll be like, you guys know it here in Carlsbad? You guys have heard of Carlsbad?
Yeah.
And they're like, no. You're like, no, this is nowhere even here. This is nowhere. But anyway, so Carlsbad was cool. They were a cool crowd. I did learn this Carlsbad fact. We all know about the caverns. You know the Carlsbad caverns?
Yeah, they got
Yeah.
bats.
They got bats.
Yeah.
And I pulled up
Oh.
into this rest stop and I seen over there they selling bat schedules. I was like, I didn't know you could monetize a bat's agenda.
Very
And
punctual, those bats.
people like to see the bats leave the cave.
It's cool. They're like a big cloud.
I was sad. I wanted to see it, but
Yeah.
I had to
Oh,
go.
same in Austin.
Oh, they got bat
actually.
caves there too? Yeah.
Not bat caves, but at sunset over that river that runs through Austin, they like take off and it's like huge. And we
Wow.
waited for the longest time, but we were
Bats.
really late for our dinner reservation. And we had to miss it.
Did you see the
Wow.
bats?
Coming. They weren't coming.
Oh, the bats were late that day.
They were, and it was very.
I'll tell you,
very
I did
annoying.
have a mildly infuriating. I was pulled over by the police.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
The police?
The police.
What happened, you naughty boy?
Well, I was letting myself have a little treat, a green chili burrito. You know they love chilies. New Mexico went all in.
Green chili in New Mexico.
They went all in on
Forget
chilies.
about it.
Arizona didn't do that, but New
didn't
Mexico
do
is
the
like
Christmas thing?
chilies are our thing. Well, I was at some gas station and they had homemade green chili burritos, and I was enjoying my burrito. And I got in my 2020 Camry hybrid, and I apparently, according to the officer, sped off like a madman. And so he pulled me over, and he was in a black truck, by the way. I was like, I don't know. I've never seen this.
Undercover?
This vehicle doesn't seem necessary. Yeah. He pulls me over, and then he goes, "You were going 50 in a 30." And I was like, oh, that's bad. But then I'm looking at my little like Camry dar, and it says that I'm in a 45. And then sure enough, I look up, I could see a sign that says 45.
You got scammed.
What?
I felt scammed. And
maybe where you were before.
exactly, that's what he would have argued. He's like, if you want, you can go argue with the judge. And I was like, yeah, in your town of 25 people, the judge is probably your wife.
You have California plates, right?
Well, yeah, I have California
That's
plates.
why.
So I played the California game, though, because my registration was actually expired, which I was like, clearly I'm getting arrested and I'm not going to leave New Mexico for the next month. I was like planning my day around it. I was like, I'll go to jail, I'll meditate. And
I'll meditate, work on my gym a little.
yeah, exactly. I'll do arms today. And I tried to play that, Jake. I knew about the anti-California, and I was like, you know how crazy it is in California. And he's like, yeah, California's crazy. And so he zapped me $130 for the speeding, but he let me go on the registration.
That was smart. It's such an easy fiddle to play, man.
I had to play it.
No.
I would have never thought that.
I've done that to manipulate conversations so much, just to get out of awkward conversations in areas that have that like weird California bias, and especially like areas immediately bordering California hate our fucking guts.
Everybody hates it.
Well, yeah, because all of
everyone hates the pretty boy.
yeah, of course.
No, my theory on why people actually hate California is because it's where their exes go after they dump them, or it's where their children abandon them for.
Of course, it's heaven.
It's the same. It's the same reason why like New York catches a ton of flack from the rest of New England. It's like that's where the people that you miss go to try to make a bigger life for themselves. Not bigger, different.
Well, New York's I feel like a totally different thing, but California is like clearly my life is better. I mean, we used to have good weather here. Now we don't. Apparently, now that I move here, California is like, yeah,
I know you brought it.
this is crazy.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, but it was a good. So actually, the first night was kind of I was just tired. I was telling Jake that like I was just tired, and this sweet woman after the show came up to me and she was like, "You guys were so great, and you guys are like celebrities." And I just went like, "Yeah, okay, thank you, ma'am. We are celebrities."
You said it like that,
like shitty. I said it kind of shitty, and because I was tired. I was just tired, you know, and I I caught myself and I turned it on and figured it out, but I was exhausted. But it was great. And I actually, the next show was great. So it was pretty crazy. I was driving and all of a sudden I'm on a dirt road. I'm like, the fuck is this? Where is this booker sending me? And it was called Young, Arizona, population 650, 16 minutes of driving on dirt roads to get there through beautiful Arizona forest. And so I finally get there, and the cool part was I was going to have like an opener. I usually headline these shows, but I had actually met this guy before like 10 years ago. And I remember that he was super high energy, super funny. And I was proud of myself. I put my ego away and I said, I will open for him. I think that will make more sense.
Oh, and he was supposed to open for you?
Yeah, usually that's how these shows go. I'm the headliner. But I opened for him and he was hilarious. He absolutely annihilated. And Chris Bennett, he's become a bit of a local celebrity, and his tale, I'm going to have him on the pod eventually, but to just briefly tell you his tale, he moved to LA and kind of like left his wife and 2 kids in Arizona. They divorced. And he came to LA, kind of got chewed up and spit out. And then he basically asked for her to remarry him. And he said, give me 1 more year in LA. I'll try to make it. 8 months later, he moved to Arizona thinking that the dream was over. And he became a local radio DJ. And now all he does is basically do comedy on the radio and do stand-up shows. And he's with his wife and kids, and they remarried. And it's a beautiful, happy thing. And he's hilarious.
Worked out. Thank God she took him back.
I think that I got to work with Chris in my time in Phoenix, and he's always so funny, so in command of the crowds.
Guy.
Like really, really talented dude.
Super modest, just everything.
Oh, yeah.
Everything you
really,
want
really sweet.
from a comedian. Great guy. All right, guys, we have a juicy app for you today. We're very excited. We've been posting on our Reddit. Please post on our Reddit. That's how we're taking submissions now. Shannon and I are checking it very diligently. Reddit.com/r/AITA pod. You can make an anonymous account. We can't wait to see you on there. Upvote some posts, comment on some posts. We're going to be reading still on the air, but I might reply on the subreddit and on the air. So we're so excited about that. Now, I don't think this has ever happened. We've got 2 submissions that kind of relate to each other. So we're actually going to read them both, even though we've done one before, just so we have our facts straight.
I've been waiting for this.
So we had somebody write in as a counter to one of the listener submissions. So we'll read the first
the
one.
original first.
Let them fight.
AITA, for dropping out of my best friend's wedding 3 months in advance. I, 23F, and my best friend, 24F, have been best friends since middle school, so about 10 years now. To paint a picture, I've had horrible luck in relationships, and I haven't always dated the best guys, mostly alcoholics. My best friend, Maggie we'll call her, fell in love with our mutual friend in high school, and they've basically been together ever since. Maggie and her SO are getting married in May. When they got engaged, I was immediately asked to be a bridesmaid. I said I would, but it came with a stipulation that my now fiance, 32M, would not be welcome. We've had relationships issues in the past involving his drinking, although we decided to move past them. Maggie said she couldn't forgive him and doesn't want him around. Right after Maggie got engaged, I found out I was pregnant. Maggie was over the moon, excited about the baby, and even changed her mind about my fiance, the baby's father, coming to the wedding. Since I'd said I wouldn't be comfortable traveling with a newborn by myself or leaving him for the week, I'd need to travel for the wedding. They live in a different state. In November, my fiance got into some legal trouble as a result of drinking and spent a month in jail. We're currently working through this issue and going to counseling. Today, Maggie let me know that my fiance is no longer welcome at the wedding. I said that's fine, but I still need him to come and that he could stay with the baby at the Airbnb. I was told he isn't welcome to come near her or the wedding at all. I told her then I won't be able to make it and you can pay me back for the Airbnb. She then said I could bring my mom if I was so worried about my baby. I explained that wouldn't work because my mom can't get the time off work to go and my father is having some health issues. She then told me I was being a bad friend by dropping out of a wedding 3 months in advance and not giving her enough time to find a replacement. I apologized, but told her my child comes first and not having the baby's father there would make it impossible for me to participate in bridesmaid activities. I don't think I was in the wrong, but maybe I'm just being defensive. AITA.
Okay.
So I'm worried that we're going to be inconsistent with our past verdict here. But at this juncture, I kind of feel like this sounds like a drinking crime. He was probably drunk driving.
Yeah.
There was no violence involved. So I feel like that would be picture painting if you're leaving that out.
It's probably like his second DUI because legal trouble and the result of drinking and you spend a month in jail. You won't spend a month in jail for one DUI, but a second one, you definitely have more repercussions.
Well, and I want to call up too here. I can understand the frustration where if you have a close friend who has repeatedly dated alcoholics and it's caused her a lot of strain in the love life department, certain amount of frustration builds up there. So I don't think that this is just about the current fiance. I think that this is about the repeated behavior of original OP.
Right.
And so I think that that's a factor here that I don't think I considered the first time.
I do think that at least at this point, though, that if it's not a violent crime, that refunding the deposit is in order. I don't think it's fair. You change the conditions of the invite. They put the money in under those conditions. Now she is opting to change. OP's friend Maggie is opting to change those conditions. I think that's fair.
No, and
I remember now specifically that we did bring this up because we talked about Vapor Days, that if you said, "Oh, Danny, I don't want you to DJ anymore," and then I opted not to come, that I think it would be fair.
And I've
for
said
you
it
to refund me.
and on a separate situation too. I've said, and I think a lot of people think that this is above and beyond and like unnecessary, but I personally think it is. If you're hosting something, and it kind of depends on the context, right? Like if somebody's a dick to somebody else and like kind of forces their way out of it and forces your hand, that sort of changes it. But typically the right move is to refund somebody who can't make it. I put a disclaimer in my parties of saying, hey, past a certain date, the money is gone to the property.
Yeah.
And I say non-refundable, but if something terrible happened at the last second and you can't attend, I'm probably going to refund you. I just set the expectation that it's not going to be easy for that to happen to prevent people from, treating it like like a last minute bailout.
If I got in a huge fight with someone, for instance, Shannon, and you said, Danny, I don't think it's appropriate for you to come. I do think it would be fair for you to refund me. I think that would be fair.
In that instance, yeah, that would be, and that's how I plan. Like, God forbid, if anybody ever gets there and they're not the right vibe and they get into a weird argument with somebody, in order to keep the peace, I'd absolutely refund them for their deposit and like gas money or whatever else, just to get the offending party out of there.
I think that's kind of the hostly thing to do. I think it's kind of the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Hosting comes with a certain amount of humility
and responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, you have to eat that.
When you have a newborn baby, like you have to put them first, and I hope that your friends would understand that it's extenuating circumstances, that your life is going to be greatly affected by this child, and you have to put that over a wedding. Yes, weddings are important, but a newborn baby, that's top priority, baby.
Yeah, you're right. And that honestly, the exclusion of the partner, just seems to be making it complicated. I mean, they did offer the mom. I know,
but she said she couldn't work. She couldn't get time off of work, and her father is having health issues. Those weren't options.
So they basically made it impossible. So at this point, I kind of am at NTA, AITA for dropping out of my best friend's wedding 3 months in advance. I'm at NTA, and she should refund the deposit.
Yep. Yeah. That's where we are with this side of the story.
And now that we're there, I think it's kind of interesting that the partner is almost like a smokescreen to the real matter at hand, which is the 2-month-old is the real reason why this cancellation
exactly.
is happening.
Because the partner would be there to care for the baby. All right. So then, and this has never happened before, we got the other side of the story, AITA for keeping my friend's deposit. Here we go. My ex-best friend posted on this pod about me. Now I'm posting about her. My ex-best friend, F22, let's call her Sarah. Do you have to go with that name? Dropped out of my wedding 3 months in advance because I told her she couldn't bring her fiance. I've hated her now husband since they started dating and didn't want him at the wedding at all. When she got pregnant, I agreed to him coming, but after his felony charge, I changed my mind for the safety of everyone attending. Sarah had already paid for her Airbnb and cabin for my wedding. She had to pay a little bit extra for her kid and husband, about $700. When I told her husband couldn't come, she said she couldn't come because it's hard to take her baby anywhere alone since he's still so young, 2 months. I offered her all the help and suggested her mom come, but she made excuses and told me no. Then she asked for the money back from the Airbnb and cabin. I told her no, it was a deposit and you don't get deposits back. She told me that she wouldn't ask for the deposit back, but I changed, quote, the circumstances of the invite, which made her drop out, and it would be unfair for me to make her pay for a room she can't use as she's no longer invited. I told her she is invited, but her husband isn't, and the circumstances changed because of her husband, and it wasn't my fault she chose to have a baby with someone like him. I don't think I'm wrong for not giving her money back. I don't think I should be out that money because she makes poor choices, AITA.
Well, I think you spoke to your friend really poorly here and saying that it wasn't your fault that she chose to have a baby with someone like him. Those are fighting words.
But I think, isn't that the way she's telling us the story, or that's what she said to the friend?
I told her she isn't invited, but her husband and the circumstances didn't change because of her husband. It wasn't her fault.
That's
Those
harsh.
are fighting words.
Yeah.
For what? Like, why are you being cruel to your friend?
Well, she's frustrated. This has been going on a long time. But you're right.
I think that's where the compounding of, it sounds like there's a history of questionable romantic entanglements. And it sounds in original OP's post, they have had previous strain on their relationship because of his drinking. So there's a lot of weight on the patience and grace that's already been burned here.
She pivoted. She let him come when OP when the other OP got pregnant. And now she's kind of walking that back since he got this felony charge. I mean, for me, it's really going to hinge on what that charge was. I think that's where I'm coming back to because, if it was a DUI, I think it's a reach to say, oh, you had a DUI, so therefore you're a danger to the party and the people around you. I do think it's your right to say, I don't want someone who had a DUI because it shows to me the underlying trait, which you can't control his drinking.
Absolutely.
It's your right.
And he could be one of those people that makes scenes at weddings.
Yes.
And like, I personally, if I were to have a wedding, like, I don't want anyone there that I'm not like, I love you. Like, I just want every single person and at my wedding to be someone that I just absolutely love. And I wouldn't want them there either. Like I have some friends that have boyfriends who I just am not a fan of, and I don't want him there even for like a half a second for me to have to think about like, oh, this sucks that they're here and they're like distracting or they're making my uncle feel uncomfortable or whatever.
Not the uncle.
Not the uncle.
Shannon, your guy over here has got a weird look to him. I don't like this guy, Shannon.
So I think it's totally within her right to not want him there. And the fact that the Airbnb, it sounds like all of the bridal party is staying at the
shared
Airbnb.
space.
It's a shared space. So I can also understand you not wanting him there too.
I understand. I'm with it. But I do think that she is changing the conditions. And I think the circumstances of the invitation have changed.
Right.
And because she's the one changing them, I therefore think that they are entitled to the deposit.
Right. And that would give them the opportunity to still attend the wedding because then they can take that money from the deposit and get a hotel room nearby. And so he could stay at a hotel room with the baby somewhere and she could still come to the wedding.
That is.
But money is real.
Yeah.
And you're now making it impossible for her. I mean, $700 is nothing to sneeze at.
No.
For her now to get a separate hotel room.
Yeah, I mean, that's ideal, but I think that ship sailed a while ago. Like, I don't think she's attending the wedding at this point.
Well, she's
but
not.
You're right. That's how you could have avoided
But that's
it.
why I think that, like, because right here when this OP says, I offered her all the help. What help did you offer besides suggesting that her mom could come? And her mom couldn't come because she couldn't get off work. So I just wish that you guys had a conversation of like, how can we figure out a way that you can still be included in my big day?
Yeah.
I like your answer, Shannon. I think that's nice. I think this friendship is very strained by this relationship. I think the other OP here with the alcoholic boyf, I mean, they said it themselves. They're working on it, but it's a tough thing. It's going to be a tough thing. You had a child with someone who has a serious alcohol problem.
Right.
You know?
And I think that's kind of what my read is here. If both of you happen to be listening, I think that you are fighting about things that are not the root of the issue in your relationship. I said the boyfriend here is a smokescreen, and he is, but he is the symptom of the true problem here, which is the friend is tired of having to pick up the pieces of these damaging, toxic relationships that her friend keeps finding herself in.
I mean, I think I think the good news is this can blow over. If y'all want to let it blow over, it can. Right now, the other OP is in a very trying and intense time. When you have a newborn, you're just not going to be as flexible for probably a couple of years till that kiddo gets on their feet. But the good news is, look, you can have interactions down the road that don't involve the husband. If you're off board for him and, you know, he doesn't shape up or whatever, you're not open to it, that's fine. You can have a girls' trip.
Yeah.
That's something that you can have in the future. And I think that if you communicate well, and OP, you got to drop your sanctimonious bullshit. That's what she's doing.
Which part?
This OP coming in with, it's not my fault you chose to have a baby with someone like him.
Right.
Drop that shit.
Yeah, if
That's
you
her
wanna
man.
have a relationship with this woman.
You think you're making the father the villain there? No, you're making the baby the villain there. That's actually what, because you're saying well, you chose to have this baby. Like, if you stop the sentence there, which it is kind of the point of the sentence, it's like, not my fault you had that baby, and it's like, it's not, but that's like, I'm with Shannon. Like, you have every right to decide who you want and don't want at a wedding, but you wanted your friend with a 2-month-old there. And by you're pawning off you're trying to make it easy for you to ban somebody from your wedding for having a baby because you don't like the person that's the father. But the fact is she has a baby and it's not the baby's fault who their dad is.
Yeah. And I just think, look, there are ways you can structure this relationship where you don't have to deal with this guy. This isn't one of the structures that will allow that.
Right.
This isn't. But there will be others in the future. So I think you guys need to have a respectful conversation and talk about maybe how in the future you guys can take a girls trip to Vegas and you can go to that part that's brighter than Times Square. I forget what it's called. What is that called?
Brighton Square.
But maybe, and I hope that you guys can work through this relationship, and maybe there's a way that you can go on a girls trip and celebrate your wedding just
absolutely
with each other and some of your other close friends or something.
She wrote X in all caps once and then opened the very next sentence with my ex best friend again. I think this friendships in the ground.
I know, but I hope that you're both listening, and I really do encourage you to try and work past this because life's too short and you've been best friends since middle school. Like that is a long time. I have friendships that long and they're really valuable to have friends that you knew when you were young as you get older.
Well,
and boundaries are a magical thing, let's have a relationship that consists of you and the other OP, and it's not going to consist of the husband. It's not.
but here's the other thing too. It is fully possible for those old friendships to no longer serve either of you.
Yeah, that's possible.
And I think that there might be an element of that here where it sounds like you're just fed up with having to deal with this cavalcade of bullshit that comes from, in Sarah's own words in the last post, her repeated dating of alcoholics.
But that's the thing, is that a person's partner isn't them, and like if either of you guys got in a relationship with some toxic MF that I hated, you know what I would say? Let's not talk about that.
But if I did that 5 times in a row and it kept being your responsibility to pick up the pieces,
I wouldn't pick up the pieces.
Then-
That's it. I would be like, I'm not here to pick up the pieces.
So the friendship's not serving you anymore.
Yeah, possibly.
So I think that this is a case of people who have outgrown it. Honestly, after reading both of
could
these,
be.
I think these two people outgrew each other, and the wedding is becoming a symptom. It's becoming this big thing that's causing a breakup. I think you guys could if Shannon, I hope Shannon's right and there's something to be reconciled here and y'all are good. But if not, then I think there was a way for you guys to part ways, shake hands, wish each other the best, and move on without it being this destructive.
Totally. Might be the end, might be the beginning. I don't know.
think either way, look introspectively and really think about if you want this friendship or not. And if you really do deep down, then you need to take some steps to mending it. And if you feel like you don't, then close the door behind you and go on with your life.
Yeah, and I think the mending largely consists of not bringing up this guy. This guy is the problem.
Right.
So don't talk about the guy. Don't talk about the ship. You don't want to go there. That won't serve this relationship. So good luck with that, guys. In the end, I think I am saying, though, I don't know if you guys are with me, AITA for keeping my friend's deposit. I am saying soft YTA. I do think that you should give her money
Yeah,
back.
I
You
think
changed the
you
conditions
should
of the
have.
invite. Unless it was a violent crime or it'd be like unambiguously like, that guy shouldn't be around. I just don't think you have enough of a case, OP. I think you got to give her deposit back. You kind of have waffled back and forth, and that waffling now you should pay the price.
Right. And is $700 worth like losing a friendship over? It's no.
Yeah, well, do the right thing. Do
that-
the right
that
thing, even
too,
if it's
and-
not worth keeping the friendship. Do the right thing.
Regardless if it's like a wedding, a destination vacation with friends or whatever, if you're the one organizing everything, I always make sure that the deposit is something that is reasonable enough that if somebody drops and I'm the person whose card is down, it's not going to kill me. If it kills you to pay that deposit back, you made the event too expensive. You made the event
That's a
too
good
expensive
point.
for you.
That's a good
Like,
point.
I do these kind of weekends a lot, and I've never made the price to play something that would be unreasonable for me to have to pay a couple
That's
of
the right
times.
thing to do.
Interesting. Yeah.
All right, guys. That was the listener submish fest. Our second story of the day. Shannon's going to read this one. AITA for refusing to listen to mother-in-law's speech on my wedding.
Another wedding one.
But first, people, AITA for wanting my wife to stay up during a road trip and talk to me. I'm writing this right now at the hotel I'm at because I'm genuinely at a loss for words. I don't think I'm in the wrong, but at the same time, she looks really pissed. My wife, me, and our 2-year-old are going on our first family road trip to California. We rotate driving in shifts, but the problem is that when I was driving, my shift fell during the night. And so I was feeling really lonely and bored as I was driving. I'm not someone who can be left to his own thoughts very well, and I need people around me. I thrive on energy and excitement.
Oh boy.
My wife is the opposite. She's fine with being left alone and can sit quietly for hours upon end. The problem is around 11 p.m. I was driving and my wife and our son were in the back seat. I was feeling isolated. So I shook her awake, but then our son woke up and, well, you could probably guess what happened. Once he quieted down, my wife began to quietly blow up at me about how much of a dick I was being. I told her it wasn't fair for her to just sleep like that, and it made me feel like a driver. She then said that she doesn't force me to stay awake or engage with her, but I told her that that's a cheap blow because we're not the same people. And I kept my mouth shut while she was driving because I know she doesn't like distractions, even though it bothered me terribly. So the least she could do is to stop being selfish and help keep me sane. Despite my perfectly logical answer, She apparently got emotional and then started whisper screaming some shit about how raising one toddler is hard enough and that she didn't know there was another one in the car who needed his whims catered to at every moment. At that point, since she got rude, I disengaged. Now our whole trip is falling apart and she's making me out to be the bad guy. AITA.
You know, people who often highlight how logical everything they say is, they're always just the creme de la creme of society, aren't they? This
it's a bad
fucking guy.
I think a good solution to this is how about he takes the day shifts then?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's practical.
Well, yeah, what? Huh? Like, why didn't they think of that?
Yeah,
that's such
a can't stand it.
Maybe they have like a being really pissed off kink. So they're just constantly trying to set themselves up to be annoyed at all times.
I mean, I will say though, to ding the wife slightly, I don't know if this is a serious ding, but the fact that he has to keep his mouth shut while she was driving, I mean,
I don't trust that. I don't trust
weird.
that painting of this picture. I crave excitement. What does that mean?
Yeah, he's kind
that's
of
giving me
overselling
like
it.
Tom Sandoval vibes. People will know what I'm talking about out
Okay.
there.
Does that mean
I
that
don't
like,
get it.
because you know how when you're on a long car ride and like there's natural conversation that picks up and then there's a lull and everybody's just kind of looking out the window and doing their thing,
Play some
same
music.
thing, and then somebody's like, look at that billboard, and maybe that starts another conversation or not. But I have ridden in cars with people who are like, my mission, my modus operandi is that there will not be a single moment of tranquility for this entire trip. I'm going to sing loudly. I'm going to talk loudly.
God.
I'm going to think of stupid questions you never thought you would have to answer because I don't want to be alone with my thoughts.
Wait, I have the perfect solution to this.
Uh-oh.
He needs to put on AITA pod.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Top comment, glad to be alive 2020 writes, YTA, you are so self-centered that you want your wife to stay awake while she drives and during your driving shift and take care of the baby while you're driving. Step down off your high horse and start treating your wife and child with respect and not always putting yourself first. If you don't, your next drive will be to a divorce attorney.
Oh, gotcha.
I ding on the attack language and the aftermath, but I'm going to give a pass on like, I feel like anybody gets a pass on, with obvious certain exceptions. If somebody wakes you up when you're not expecting to be woken up and then there's a thing you have to handle immediately
Shaken
after
awake.
that. Yeah.
Shaken awake, by the way, that's his own words. Like, what?
That not safe, dog. First of all, that's
does that?
Yeah, not a move, but definitely the crankiest I have been. Like me waking up on the couch when I'm dead asleep and not expecting to be woken up. What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck is it? What the fuck is going on? And I'm not mad, but my brain is just not going yet. So the only words I know are fuck and what.
Yeah, it's like
I know,
terrifying.
it's probably scary, I was going to say.
I think this OP is like super needy as well. I'm like, you ain't got a podcast, you ain't got a book,
Exactly
a music,
what I was thinking.
you can't do
put something in your
anything.
headphones.
Yes,
Honestly, that's how I prefer to drive anyway. Like whenever Max and I are on a road trip, a lot of times I'm like, can I just like put my podcast in? I want to listen to something.
Yeah.
He left out the part where earlier in the drive, he was power ballad singing to 80s hair metal. And the wife ripped the radio out of the car and threw it out the window.
The excitement part. I thrive on energy and excitement.
I don't think you
So
do, man. I think you
ridiculous.
just like need therapy.
He's very codependent, I feel like.
Yeah.
Person that
it's-
just can't like be alone with
She's
their
had that
own
toddler.
thoughts.
She's had that toddler comment locked and loaded. She's
Oh,
texted that to friends
That's
a couple
wife
of
trope.
times.
That's a wife trope. I've heard that one a million
I
times.
know, but
I
I,
know,
feel
but
like
in this
she's had
case-
that one in the chamber for
Yeah.
months now.
Because he is being a little fucking boy.
He really is. I can't believe he woke her up. There was a dissenting comment. JPL77, negative 22 upvotes. ESH, why take a road trip and plan to drive this long with known problems? Wife is an asshole because she demands silence and no distractions. Wife is also the asshole for having an argument in the car. I dislike hypocritical people.
What? Having an argument in the car? I didn't know
What?
that was
Is
such
that
a
a
faux
sin?
pas.
That's such
No
a-
car arguments.
That's such, I bet this person prides themselves on being a centrist voter too.
Right.
Of just like, oh well, what if I said everybody sucks? Checkmate.
OP's the asshole because he should have taken the day driving, then he could have slept at night while the baby's sleeping. Also asshole for the self-centered analysis, thinking he's logical. OP sounds like you need therapy and an outlet. You actually sound scary. Huge red flag when someone says I can't be left alone with my thoughts.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. And I am with them on one element of the ESH here, which is why the fuck are you both still driving at 11 o'clock at night with a newborn in the car?
Yeah, like,
I really think this guy is just one of the weakest, most pathetic guys we've ever had.
Yeah, I'm picturing like somebody that Jay Baruchel plays, or like a Steve Buscemi, and he like got real skinny for the role.
Yeah,
and
right. He's sick.
Sick Steve Buscemi plays this guy in the movie.
So ridiculous. That said, I will say, this is a kind of a famous pressure cooker, I feel, to bring out relationship problems. You've got a 2-year-old, you're on a long road trip. I mean, a lot of the times this can kind of elucidate major issues in a relationship. And actually, I do think this is a fair thing. I think he is codependent.
9 to 10 p.m. top out for late driving with other people in the car.
I think so.
I'd safely recommend get off the road by 10, regardless of the situation.
Like they're just going on a road trip. It doesn't sound like they needed to be exactly there at Friday at 10 a.m. so they couldn't stop driving, you know?
Yeah. My friend said there's a rule, like 8 hours a day max driving.
Yeah, I've done 12.
8 to sleep, 8 to chill. AITA for wanting my wife to stay up during a road trip and talk to me. I think we agree. This is a whopping YTA. Guys,
big YTA.
Please rate, review, and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Throw us some 5 stars there on Spotify. That would be amazing.
And Apple Podcasts.
Join us on Patreon, patreon.com/AITA pod. We actually just hit 400 patrons. Very excited about that.
And follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We're getting some followers on Instagram. All of you listeners out there, please follow us. Make it even more.
And don't forget about us on LinkedIn as well.
Okay,
posting a lot of Sonic fan art on the AITA pod LinkedIn.
We're selling some of Jake's Hawaiian shirts over
Don't
there.
you fucking dare.
That was bad. All right, here's Shannon.
Okay. AITA for refusing to listen to my mother-in-law's speech at my wedding. So I hate speeches. I never understood the appeal. I think they are boring, exhausting, and have very forced. But having said that, this is just my opinion, and I never forced it on anyone. I have sat through long, excruciating speeches without complaining like any other decent human being.
God.
When it was my turn to get married, however, I requested no speeches. We wrote that we loved everyone and that we knew they loved us. So if they want to say anything, say it to us directly, in private. My husband thought it was funny, but he knew my feelings about speeches. We had a small wedding with only loved ones, a weekend long. My husband loves games, so the wedding planner did a really great Taskmaster type of games, and everyone appreciated it. Dinner came, and mother-in-law stood up and started by saying, I know we are forbidden to make speeches by the bride, but this is my only son getting married, so I will do what I want to. I didn't hear the rest because I was seeing red. My sisters and bridesmaids were shocked. I pretended like she wasn't talking and continued my conversation with my girls. They did the same. Mother-in-law was furious. Both sister-in-laws were furious, and my husband was very angry that it showed in his profile. He refused to look at me. The rest of the night was awkward. My husband's side sulking in their seats. I wanted to make sure it wasn't ruined for the rest of us, and we ended up having a blast. The next day, I spent it with my family and friends. My husband said that I was very wrong in what I did. I couldn't force my mother-in-law to STFU, and he knew she wouldn't no matter how much we told her. I shouldn't have disrespected and humiliated her like this. Our marriage started on the wrong foot, it seems. AITA?
A wedding is, it's your wedding, your choice. But I honestly do feel like OP is being a bit juvenile. I mean, speeches are definitely like kind of one of the most classic forms of human communication. It's listening to the tales of elders. It's older than time itself, baby. It's older than history. Literally, it's older than history. The written word, right? Like, I don't know. I guess I kind of feel like this request is a little bit like there's no smiles at a wedding. It's like, I guess it's your wedding if that's your rule, but smiling kind of comes with the territory. You've gathered everybody.
I think that they probably should have figured out a way to box the speeches in a way that makes the bride feel appreciated and that her preference is listened to here.
Yes.
But where it loses me, because even if it wasn't for two things mother-in-law said, I'd have a way easier time being like, now, come on, OP, maybe you should have been a little bit looser on the speech thing. The mother-in-law saying, I know we've been forbidden from speeches by the bride.
Right.
You are picking a fight. You are saying, hey, you and me on site forever. Fuck you.
I mean, I kind of feel like that's what she was doing, though. So whether she said it was what she was doing or not, she was still doing it. I don't know if I agree that making it sheepish was somehow a pass.
Not a pass, but it would make it less okay for the bride to respond the way that she did. And I think ultimately, I know I'm always saying communication would have fixed this. Mother-in-law should have talked to OP about it first.
I mean, I don't know that she didn't. It sounds like she set a brick wall limit, and then anytime anyone brought it up.
Yeah, being super rigid for sure.
But I still just think that the way that for the OP to have been a little more graceful about this is just sit there and listen. And then maybe discuss it with her after the wedding. But now you really did. I know that the mother-in-law was being rude by doing something that you specifically asked not to do. But she went ahead and did it. So the best way to go about that is to not talk over her and make it extremely uncomfortable for the rest of your wedding.
I mean, I think we all agree that was a miss socially, whether or not it was ethical or not.
That is just so, and she's your, and as you were saying, she's your elder. Like, you do have to respect her. People need to show more respect for their elders these days. It has not been happening.
That's not quite what I was saying. I'm not signing on to that, but I am signing on to that. Her perspective on speeches, I think, is a little ridiculous. And I do think that a wedding isn't just about you and your party, Miss Bridezilla. I think that it's normal and people want to speak at a wedding. And I think she did have a right to speak, frankly. I think it was an unreasonable request. And that's
so too.
Yeah.
And I think if it was anyone, not just an elder, like literally if anyone was just like if the brother or something wanted to hop on and do a speech, just show respect. It's really childish. And that's honestly embarrassing in front of the rest of the people.
Here's what I'll say. I was recently at a wedding where a relative in the family got up and basically just didn't go fully rogue, but basically just started trying to do stand up and aired like political opinions and shit.
No.
And it was like, I think it is perfectly reasonable to not let everybody get to do a speech, even if they are in the immediate family.
Of course.
You pick people, if you don't like speeches, pick people that you know aren't going to go rogue. Pick people that you know are going to stick to a time limit.
By the way, I don't think she went rogue.
No, she did in that opening.
She only went rogue because she
gave the speech, but she didn't.
The opening line was, hey, let's
fight. But the
fight.
open line was just calling it what it was.
However, she does say at the end, P.S. Mother-in-law loves making speeches, sometimes 15 minutes long and not unusually mean speeches, disguised as humor that often isn't appreciated at all.
But I think the problem with that is she's abstracting. She actually does not characterize that the speech that mother-in-law gave as mean.
Right.
That's actually
it is a mean speech. She opens with it being mean.
No,
and
Jake. She opened saying the truth, which is that she was forbidden. We are forbidden to make speeches by the bride. That's it. She was calling it what it was. That's not mean.
That's passive aggressive white wine mean.
She was doing it anyway. I don't think there's any evidence that she gave a mean speech. It was inappropriate that she gave the speech based on the prior set rule, but the speech itself was not rude. OP never said the speech was rude.
What I was going to say there was just I don't care about that PS because you already admitted you're biased against speeches. So every speech you've ever heard is going to feel like it's too long and you don't like it.
I think the PS hurts her case because
it totally
PS
does.
To me sells it that she's actually trying to come for mother-in-law and that she had some kind of fear that mother-in-law might do something, but all mother-in-law did was give a speech. She didn't actually be mean.
Right.
I think that opening line was mean. Yeah, I think that the response here was really miscalculated, really poorly thought out, and like you should have just been a lot more flexible about people being allowed to say something. But and you'll have an easier time reining in what people say if you are flexible and say, look, if it was up to me, we wouldn't even be having speeches, but we know that you really want to say something, so we want to give you that.
I think so.
And also, I do know that weddings are supposed to be your day, but weddings are also a day that parents also really look forward to for their children. I know my dad was like always looking forward to the father-daughter dance. Like there are parts of the wedding that not only you dream about, but that your parents dream about for you. And taking away she's probably wanted to do a speech at her son's wedding.
That's what
and
she
taking
said.
that away from her, I do think that is, kind of rude. But I do think she should have maybe pulled you aside and been like, look, I know you don't like speeches, but I really, really, really want to do this for my son.
The answer was no, though, so she maybe didn't feel comfortable.
But if they didn't have that conversation, it should have been had. But I'm going to die on this hill, y'all, signaling out the bride as the person who forbid them from giving speeches, not just saying, I know we're forbidden from giving speeches, saying by the bride, that is where it is fucking, you are instigating. And I'm not backing off on that.
Sour Skittles 98, soft ESH. She did the one thing you told her not to do, but the wedding is not all about you. Your husband is another person and has a family of people as well, and you were petty to them. I would have left the room with the friends. Ooh, that was another alternative. She spoke over. She actually impaired other people from hearing rather than just leaving. But then again, she was rude to you, firing the first shot while acknowledging that she was blatantly ignoring your wishes. Yeah, everyone sucks here. Mother-in-law is entitled. I'll do what I want, and sucks a heck of a lot more. But everyone sucks.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I maybe could meet at soft ESH, but I kind of feel like OP's the asshole here. I feel like you were being an over-controlling bride. You made an unreasonable rule and somebody violated your rule and then you talked over them very rudely. And I'm sorry, but like I do think that the mother-in-law has a right to give a speech. And by OP's own testimony, there was nothing actually wrong with the speech. The problem was that it was a speech.
Okay. Yeah, I guess. They don't bring up any. Well, they didn't listen to the speech, so they don't know. There might have been a ton of fucking slams.
That is a great point.
Like, I always thought my son would get with the looker, but I'm glad he values a personality. Yeah,
she didn't.
I think it's one of those you cut off your nose to spite your face. Like you ruined your wedding. Basically, your husband was mad at you.
I mean, yeah,
you started off your entire marriage on a wrong foot because you decided to just be petty. And I love the speeches personally. I mean, if they're 15 minutes long, it's a different story. But I love the speeches.
I think you got a right to keep them tight. I think also, people don't write their speech and they speak from the heart. No, take a second and actually write a speech. Write it.
I'm going to make people submit. They're going to have to record.
Absolutely.
And they can submit on AITA Pod subreddit.
I don't know where we're landing here. AITA for refusing to listen to mother-in-law's speech on my wedding. I'm sorry, guys, but I'm at YTA here.
I think I'm at 70-30 ESH.
Yeah.
70 who?
It's 70 OP, 30 to
I can go there.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was going to get 70.
No, I'll give a third. I'll give a third of the responsibility roughly to mother-in-law. I'm not with you guys that line didn't make it a shittier thing to do. I think that you turn the bride into the villain to everybody in the room by doing that.
I agree.
I agree that she shouldn't have said the line.
Yeah, I do.
Wow. All right. I'm happy that ended well, just how I like it. Guys, please rate, review, subscribe. Join us on Patreon, patreon.com/AITA pod. Follow us on YouTube, Instagram, especially. Shannon is the Instagram queen right now. TikTok. We're posting the stitches. We love your comments and definitely post on our subreddit, reddit.com/r/AITA pod. All right, guys, we're going to wrap up on this one. This is a fun one. AITA for not saying anything to my son who told a teacher that she was, quote unquote, dismissed. My son, Brandon, graduated high school on Friday, and me, his mom, my ex, our two other kids, my 5-year-old son, Grant, Brandon's half-brother, and my wife all attended. Grant knew it was a special day for Brandon and made him a card and bought him a big lollipop.
Aww.
I would love to just give people giant lollipops at random events.
The big absurd ones. There's no way you're gonna eat this whole thing. It's gonna be a mess.
Congrats on your becoming a doctor. Here's a lollipop. Brandon was seated in front of us, and I told Grant to go give him his presents. He went over there, and my son's class was just showering him with attention. The ceremony begun, and Grant was sitting on Brandon's lap. I thought about going over there, but if Grant was being troubled, then Brandon would tell him to go back. They called my son's name, and he walked to the edge of the stage with Grant. It was a lot of fun for them. After the ceremony, a teacher came to Brandon and told him he shouldn't have let his brother on the stage. It's a privilege for graduating seniors only. My son told her that she was quote unquote dismissed and turned his back on her. He didn't really know her. I thought she was out of line, so I laughed. She walked away. I got an email from the VP who told me that my son humiliated a staff member and wasn't welcome back on campus unless he apologized. He didn't see much of a problem with my son walking the stage with my other son, just the attitude. I said he's not apologizing, and what good is banning him from campus? He hated school. AITA.
I mean, forget that he hated school. He's done with it.
He's done.
This is the high school equivalent of you can't quit, you're fired.
Yeah, exactly. I'm literally leaving today. That was the premise of what we just did.
That's what I don't understand.
I think that any authority figure at a high school trying to flex on somebody graduate in the process of graduating at the ceremony, what the fuck do you think is going to happen? I feel like this teacher is trying to have one last power trip of, dude, this was fucking great. This little kid, everybody loved it. It sounds like
I feel like this is everyone at high school. These people are, and like, look, I feel for the teachers. I know it's a tough job, but a lot of teachers, this is the only power they have in their life, and they're going to exploit it and police when it's totally unnecessary. Nothing bad happened. No one was harmed. People loved it. They loved Grant. They thought it was adorable.
I know.
Oh, he's so cute, that Grant.
Let's call it what it is. Graduations fucking suck. You're out in if you're in an auditorium, you lucked out, because if you're outdoors like you are at so many of the California graduations, you're just fucking baking. It's even worse if you're in it because you're in the stupid gown and the hat.
It's so
like
hot.
a solar panel.
It's always so hot.
It's so anything that gives you a brief moment of levity where you're like, look at that little kid go. Why are you trying to come down on this, Teach?
Ridiculous. I think it's a blatant,
it's a privilege for graduating seniors only. He's a 5-year-old kid.
He didn't finish boot camp with the Marines either. He got through 4 years of basic education in the United States.
Right.
This isn't a massive achievement.
I don't think Grant is going to remember this. This is ridiculous.
I think Grant might. Yeah, he's like
it's a formative memory.
Yeah, it's a core memory for him.
That's also why I think that she should have just left it alone, because it's a cute little moment that I think that it's a nice bonding moment for the brothers.
I take umbrage too with you humiliated staff.
Yes,
it's like, who did this happen in front of? It sounds like it was just in front of his family, and all he said was, "You're dismissed." Which is a
great line.
Great line. Not too far. No names were called. Like it was just like shoo shoo.
I'm with you. If he had said like you're being a fuck ass, I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's an apology.
Yeah.
He said you were dismissed.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, you have no bearing over me. Away with you.
And also, who gives a shit? You have nothing to do with this school anymore. Like, I would have just ignored the email.
I honestly wonder if the VP kind of took the wrong approach and just should have said the truth, which is like, hey, you kind of hurt Mr. Wexler's feelings. He doesn't have a lot going on. You know,
this dude sucks.
His family, his wife left him. He's got like ducks he hangs out with at the park. Can you just tell him you're sorry?
I gotta read. VP and the teacher are They're fucking.
Yeah.
That's
it's
that.
like, oh, can you just do this because my wife's nagging me?
It's the person that I'm having an extramarital affair with is gonna tell my spouse if I don't get an apology from you.
We've been having sex in the band room, so please. Hounder 1, ESH. If your 5-year-old is the only extra child that walked on stage, there's probably a reason why, and that should be your cue that most people don't need to be told not to do that. They just know. On their other hand, the school's response is ridiculous. I mean, what they're really going to do now? What good is banning him from campus? What are you supposed to do? Reverse time and take him off the stage? Like, who cares?
Who cares?
No.
And like, what? Oh, I get everybody else knew not to have little kids. No, you know what? That's called innovation. You took a risk and it paid off. I'm not coming down on you for that.
No, not at all.
What's weird to me is ESH is the more confounding possible verdict you could have here.
I don't think that this is wrong. I think this person is a clown trying to act like something bad. Oh, your 5-year-old's the only extra child. Who cares, bro? It was a cute moment. Can this just happen and it not be a problem? This was not a problem.
At my high school, when I told you guys about this during rehearsal, but they specifically told us during rehearsal for graduation that no one better bring a beach ball. And like none of us have been talking about doing it. They're just like, nobody better bring a beach ball.
Nobody better dress up as a dinosaur.
You're going to be kicked out of graduation.
Just giving you the idea.
And there's just this moment of 400 of us all looking around like, we're all going to bring beach balls now, right? Yeah, it's super easy to sneak a beach ball in. We're wearing giant gowns.
Yeah.
So there's just this moment where as soon as I had to do the Pledge of Allegiance because I was the school's vice president for some reason. That was my job at graduation. Yeah. And I see it as I'm doing it where they're all using that moment as like, okay, nobody's looking.
Yeah.
And they start blowing it up under the robes.
How many were there?
There was at least 50. It was a lot.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
And the crowd loves it. Everybody just starts, and you can see, I'm looking at the like I locked eyes with the teacher who said it, and they kind of had that like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have fucking said that.
AITA for not saying anything to my son who told the teacher she was dismissed. I think we agree. NTA and like this person is the teacher is. All right, guys.
Yeah, no, duh. Yeah, I'm on that side.
That's the app. Don't you dare send us a beach ball on our...
No, don't tell them that. We're going to be up to our necks in beach balls.
Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.